Hey team, JUS 455, Dr. Doug Brown here, checking in on this beautiful cold Wednesday. It's probably cold where you are, it's certainly cold here. I'm ready for spring, time for the beach, I'm ready to go, and I'm sure you are too. Hey, it's almost over, we're in week 7, only have this week, next week is short. We'll be finishing up and you'll be moving on to either graduation or other classes. Congratulations to or for getting through the class. You've done a fantastic job learning the material. A lot of information. You know, this is a pretty busy class. It's chock full of information and lots of tools and tips and things to help you there get through the class. I hope we have provided that to a point, sufficiently to be able to help you. Hopefully the links and the announcements and the tools we've given you, will help you or have helped you get through the class. So I've always been excited about working with you. This has been a fantastic crew. Each of you have given 110% to learning the material, doing well in the discussions, the written assignments, and the blogs, and I appreciate you really doing that. Thank you so much for crossing the creek and going the extra mile. Hopefully the feedback that I've given you has been beneficial and it's helped you. I've seen some progress. I see you working hard. Many of you have reached out to me via phone, text message, email, and you've used those tips, that feedback that I've given you to help you move forward on the material and also writing an APA. So congratulations. You've done a fun job or a fantastic job, and it's been an honor working with you this term. So a lot going on this week. We're taking a look, examining the results of terrorism and the law in our discussion this week. One of the reasons that we wanted to include this in our discussion is really because it is a current event. It's been a current event for a while, certainly before 9/11, and then when 9/11 occurred, it's sure been a current event since. It's something that continues, something that we continue to deal with. Although we don't see as many terrorist attacks in the United States as we have in the past, what we do see is we see the FBI, Homeland Security, and other agencies preventing those. We've seen a lot of different attacks, shootings, etc., that have been prevented by the work of the FBI. And I'm sure more in other agencies, and I'm sure more have occurred that we don't know anything about, certainly maybe in an effort not to alarm the public. And that's just how law enforcement works. They keep us safe. They don't always tell us what's going on because we don't always need to know. We just need to be safe. But how have all these attacks and terrorism, the laws that resulted or associated with these attacks, how does that affect us, how we live today? Well, we've had to give some freedoms up. That's what a lot of citizens say, is that we've had to give some freedoms up in order to stay safe and to be protected. And then you have groups like the ACLU, and they have filed lawsuits. Other groups have filed lawsuits. And they tell us that, all these laws, presidential directives, it's all a violation of the Constitution. And so they've tried to get courts or Congress to change the laws, and so far that's not really happened. You see some examples of that. Now, there may be some cases on an individual basis where a court has ruled that what the government's done is unconstitutional and thrown it out or whatever, but overall these laws not been a huge challenge. There's been some challenges, but we've not seen this uprising from the majority of American citizens where we're protesting in the street saying, hey, you're violating our constitutional rights. Instead, what we've experienced, in my opinion, is that the public has said, look, we're willing to give up. Doesn't really affect me unless I'm a criminal or a terrorist, so let's just keep going. We're safer. I can go to the mall, etc. And that's what a lot of people have said. What's your opinion? Has it really changed us? Has it made it safer? What has been the effect, the result of terrorism and these new laws that we have? Are we better? Are we safer? What about our Constitution? Has our rights been affected? How do you feel about that? So those are some things I'd like for you to share in your discussion. And what I want you to do, if you don't mind, is I want you to share your opinion, but I'd also like you to use the SNHU library to do some peer-reviewed research. I've provided some links. The U.S. Naval Postgraduate College, Postgraduate School in San Diego. There's some great information there in the database. You can find that as well through the SNHU library that's online. Try to provide, those in your discussion and your paper this week, and then focus on that peer review material. Try to share some of that information as you can. It's always better to include that peer-reviewed research. It helps you get or build your research skills. It helps you to learn how to research using those databases in the SNHU library, which is very important. Definitely going to be important for you down the road in your undergraduate program, and certainly if you do an undergrad or a graduate degree, you'll need to know how to use some research in those databases to find it. And then it also helps you to build your knowledge base on the discussion this week on the material, and also helps you with your writing in APA. Practice is important. Speaking of APA, please look up the feedback that I just shared in the discussions. I'm working on your papers now. Discussions and papers, trying to get those back to you as soon as I can. Take a look at that feedback, not just on APA, in-text citations and references, but more importantly on the material. If you don't mind, make sure you're reading the text. Just some tips. Make sure you're reading the text, look at the instructions, look at that rubric real closely. And I've sort of said this throughout the whole term, but pay attention to that rubric if you don't mind, and develop your work based upon that rubric and those instructions, because it will help you to achieve 100%. And of course, my feedback hopefully will do that as well. And then those discussion examples, take a look at them again that I've shared there in the announcements. Okay, in week 7, as you know, we have our final paper. Now, in our Adobe Connect meeting, we discussed that. Some of y'all guys jumped in, guys and gals jumped in. Appreciate you doing that. I've had lots of posts and announcements about things. And so just briefly, because I don't want to keep you on here too long, you'll get bored with me. Remember, when we put together our paper for week 7, our final paper, we're not simply taking the milestones and plugging them in, and submit. Not what we're doing. You can use your milestones. I encourage you to use your milestones. It's okay to do that, but to clarify, there has to be a flow. It all has to make sense from the beginning of the paper to the end. There needs to be a continuous flow, so that don't write for me. Don't write for yourself. I want you to write for your neighbor who's 85 years old, has no idea what you're talking about, and the flow, and she can pick that paper up and read it from beginning to end, and it all makes sense, it all connects, it all flows well. You tell this story from beginning to end using those milestones and your work from the textbook, from the material things we talked about. It all flows, it all connects. From beginning to end. Make sure that you have your title page, your running head. Remember, the H is lowercase. It has to be up in that header area. You can't put it lower. You have to have page numbers on the title page and all the other pages that follow the sample paper that I shared, along with the links. Headers in each section. And then I want you to stay with the content. Check your spelling, check your grammar using Word or a similar program. Make sure you check that closely. Check it again, check it again, check it again. You have to have citations. I'd like to see citations throughout your paper to support what you have to say. Remember what I've told you in academia, we can't just make a statement. We have to support our statement with findings, with research, and we do that here in the form of APA. So we use author, comma, year, and then if it's a direct quote, of course, we share the page numbers and then references, etc. on those examples that I've given you. So make sure you do that if you don't mind. My rule of thumb is what I call the rule of threes. And so what I do is before I have a paper that's important like this, it's, counts for 350 points. And it's weighed towards so much of your grade that if you don't turn it in, your grade could be lower. So definitely you want you to do as well as you can. So what I do is I use a rule of threes, and I get 3 other people to look at it. Mark it up, give me some ideas. Does it flow well? Does the APA ride? Did I talk about what I needed to talk about with the material? Is my grammar correct, etc.? I'll mark them up, get the red pen, mark it up, and then what I'll do is I'll get a fresh copy to someone that I don't want them to see what somebody else did, mark it up, and then the third person, and I compare all those notes to see what I can do to improve. Now sometimes they're wrong, but it's always good to get 3 people to mark it up, give you some feedback, go back and correct it, and then submit it. Unfortunately, with this assignment, as with the other ones, unfortunately, we can't revise this one. It's a one time. When you submit it, that's it. I can't let you do revisions because the class ends next week, and there's not enough time to do it. So I apologize for that. But you have time. Get those in by Sunday. I'll spend the week grading them, try to get them to you next week. Get your grade submitted as soon as I can to the registrar. Now, in the meantime, here's what we're going to do. We held a live meeting, so this week, it's Wednesday. If you need help with that final, anything else, and I've said this throughout the whole term, but if you need help with that final, I don't want you to just write something and submit it. I want you to pick the phone up and call me. Send me an email. I'll visit with you via Skype or Adobe. I'll look at your paper. We can screenshot it, whatever you want to do. And I'll try to help you with that as much as I can to help you move forward. I don't want you to just submit a paper and say, oh, well, good luck. Let me help you with that. I don't mind doing that. That's what I'm here for. And if we have to stay up to midnight, 2 in the morning working on your paper, then that's what we're going to do. Let's see. The SNHU Online Success Center will also help you with that as well. And so there's a lot of resources that's online. I've shared those with you in the announcements. The Writing Center at SNHU is really great about giving you some free tutoring, helping you with your papers, helping you with APA, etc. So that's something to consider as well. Now take those Roman numerals out. Just a little tip. I've seen some bunch of papers of that, and I've tried to give some feedback. I don't want you to put the Roman numerals in and 1, 2, 3 and all that. Just write the paper. Don't introduce yourself. Don't do any of that stuff. Just write the paper. And so start that good flow from beginning to end and tell that story about the topic, about those things, the cases that you're going to share, those situations with the mayor, whatever it is you're going to share. Just share that. Don't tell me about sharing it. Just share it. And don't share those. Don't include the question marks in there. Don't, like I said, don't introduce yourself. And in this paper, I'm going to do such and such. Don't tell me that. Just write the paper from beginning to end so that it has a good flow and it discusses those cases and it discusses those ethical theory. Please make sure that you include that ethical theory in there that we discussed. I just gave you some examples in the announcements and in this week's assignment as well. I just posted some links in there to help you with ethical theory. To make that a little bit easier. Make sure you check your grammar, make sure you check your APA, stay on point with the material, try to avoid those conjunctions. Don't, shouldn't, wouldn't, couldn't. Spell out the word if you don't mind. And pick the phone up and call me if you need my help. 501-463-8538 or send me an email, tell me you want to meet with me via Skype or whatever. And if I'm not doing anything, we can meet right now. I'll drop everything I'm doing to help you and move mountains, and we'll go over that. So all that's been about 15 minutes. Like I said, I know you're getting tired of me. I want you to know you're doing a great job. It's been a fantastic class. I'm proud of each and every one of you. You've given it 100%, as I said. Just really knocked it out rocked it out. I want you to stay motivated. I don't want you to give up. If you're not motivated, you're having a tough day, I want you to call me. Let's talk about it. Hey, we can work through it, guaranteed. If you want to just vent to me and me shut up and listen, I'm good at doing that. I have a wife and 4 daughters, so I'm good at listening. Just let me know. But I want you to know you're doing a great job. Very proud of you. You worked hard, and I'm excited. I'll see you in the discussions today. And again, if you need me, I want you to pick the phone up and call me. Have a great week. Keep rocking. And thanks again for checking in.